Hi, it's Jen, and thanks for joining me for 5 Cards, 5 Occasions for the month of May. I'm doing this month's challenge a little bit differently. It's called Sparkle and Shine, and it's a class that I took through Jennifer McGuire and Kristine Werner, and I'll have that information below. This card number 1 is a glitter technique, and basically I am taking this die from Spellbinders, and I am going to be using the Jillibean stamp set. I don't end up using the Hampton Arts stamp set. And then I use also various glitter. So I already cut out the die because it was kind of intricate and there was lots of little pieces to cut. So I'm going to start with that. And so I'm just taking some double-sided tape. I think this is Crafter's Companion or something like that. I'll have to double check. So I guess they have sheets, but I just have this big roll. This is probably, it looks like maybe a 3-inch roll. And so I needed 2 pieces. And so I just adhered those to the back, and I took a bone folder and kind of tried to get them so the seam wasn't noticeable. And then I'm just going to take assorted glitters and sprinkle it on and then rub it in with my fingers so it gets into the double-sided adhesive really good and won't come off. And so I'm kind of just blending the colors. I'll start with one color on one letter. I don't know why I didn't do that with the blue. I probably just decided when I was on the E that I wanted to do that. And so I'm kind of blending 2 colors on one letter. And this is super easy, and I mean, it's kind of messy, but I don't mind that. So I take all the colors and do the whole card, and I kind of messed up a little bit at the end. Because I had all this leftover glitter, and what I did was I tried to just get it on the top portion where there's not any glitter, and I ended up fading out some of my other colors. Like the 3 banner flags on the bottom were all supposed to be pink, but they ended up at the end being a little bit silvery. So I could have covered it probably, and so the glitter wouldn't contaminate the other colors, but I still like how it turned out. I think it's really pretty. This card is not in the picture at the beginning because I actually started this series last weekend, and this birthday card was given to its recipient on Monday, so that's why it's not included with the four cards at the beginning, that picture at the beginning. So then I just take the double-sided backing off, and I stick the card panel on a piece of foam tape, or not foam tape, fun foam. And then I trim that off, and I adhere that to a A2 size card. This is a side fold. I think this is an A2 size. This is a side fold, and so I just adhered that panel right on top of the card. And then I'm going to take out the Happy Birthday to You stamp, It's Your Day, and also the little birthday hat. The Happy Birthday to You I'm going to put on the inside, and then the others I will be using one on the outside and one I'm making a pocket. And so I am taking my Hampton Arts Stamp Perfect tool, and I'm going to put some Versamark on my stamp. And then I am going to use some Detail White embossing powder to kind of bring out the Happy Birthday to You stamp. And then I will set that with my heat gun. And like 95% of the time, I forget to use my little tool that's supposed to get rid of all the excess embossing powder. I never can remember to use it. So a lot of times I'm cleaning the card off because there's pieces stuck. So now I'm going to stamp up the It's Your Day stamp. And I do it in black and pink, and I wasn't sure which one I was going to use. And then I also do the hat, and then I just fussy cut these out. The hat I end up coloring in, I stamped it in actually Stays On Royal Purple. That's the ink that I used. But I do end up taking my Wink of Stella purple and going over that hat. I just love these shimmer pens. They're so beautiful. And then on the It's Your Day, I ended up choosing the black, and then I take my Spectrum Noir, I think it's a macaroon, I think that's the color. I end up going over that with that color, so it does end up pink anyhow. And I have this gift card that I'm going to re-gift because I don't drink coffee and go to Starbucks. But it had the amount written on the back in a Sharpie. And the best way to get a Sharpie off of any smooth surface is rubbing alcohol. It works great for rubbing or getting a Sharpie off of your flat screen TV. Don't ask me how I know that, but I do know that. That's how I learned it. But it's pretty awesome. So the next thing I do is I take a Becky Higgins... I don't know what you call those, not sheet protectors, but where they use the journaling cards, and I cut one of those out to use as a gift card holder, and then I cut a slit on the spine of the card to put the gift card holder through, and I adhere that to the back of the card with double-sided tape, and then I cover that up with a piece of washi. And then I'm taking the hat, and I got some foam squares, and I put that on the front of the card. And then the It's Your Day cutout, I end up adhering to the top of the gift card holder. And then I sprinkle in some little stars. It's not glitter, but for some reason I can't remember what those things are called. But they're a recollection set. And then I use my fuse tool to put the to seal the top of the gift card holder. And I don't know why I did that in a squiggly shape. I ended up not liking it at all, and so I just went ahead and took a piece of washi and stuck that over the top of the gift card holder. So I go ahead and take some double-sided tape and put that on the back of this piece, and I adhere that to the little gift card holder. And that's pretty much it for this card. I do end up adding some stickles to the front where those little dots are at the top, and kind of various spots around the card, as you can see in these pictures. And so the next card I'm going to do is going to be a Father's Day card, and I'm using this paper, which I'm going to trim down, and it just has bottle caps on it. I honestly don't know where this came out of it. It kind of looks like a Tim Holtz paper, but I'm not 100% sure that's what it is, so I'm not going to say that it is. But I just got this out of my stash, and I'm just going to go ahead and adhere it to the front of this card. That's it. So I've adhered the paper to my card base, and I've cut out an extra 3 bottle caps from the leftover paper, and I'm taking my Mink toner pen. And this is how I'm going to get the foil to stick. And I'm just going around the middle of each of these circles. And then I'm going to take the foil. And the foil needs to be up with the toner on the back side. So I run that through my Mink, but I think it works in a laminator also. And then next I'm going to take this Close to My Heart bubble... what's it called? Bubble Caps stamp set, and I'm going to stamp out the letters POP. And so I'm using Memento black ink, and I have to be really careful when I do this because it will smear very easily since it's a slick surface. And so I put Memento black ink on, and then I cover it with some black embossing powder, and then I set that with my heat gun, and I do that for all 3 letters. And then I take my toner pen again, and I'm just going to outline random bottle cap edges on the paper. And I think when it's done, it kind of gives it like a 3D look. It's actually quite neat. And I think you can also take a glue pen and get it to stick. You wouldn't heat set it like through a laminator or a Mink, but I think it works the same with a glue pen. If you put foil over it and pull it up, I think, just like burnish it with your bone folder or your hand or whatever, I think it'll have the same effect. And I wasn't sure if this was going to come out because this is the first time I've been using this ink pen is for this project. And I actually really like how it turned out. I just think it's so cool. And like I said, I think it kind of gives it a little bit of a 3D look. Then I'm going to pop up the letters, pop. I'm going to pop up pop with some double-sided or some circle squares. It looks like a Recollections brand. And so you have the foil on the pop and the foil on the edges of the bottle caps. And I had a stamp that said World's Greatest, and I didn't think it really flowed with the background. And so I went ahead and went through my stickers, and I had these stickers from, I think it's on my Mind's Eye set. And so I just take the letters that I need to say World's Best. I think I have the letters to say Worlds, and then there's actually a sticker that says Best. And so I'm just taking a little kind of note card thing from my stash, and I think that's probably from a ephemera pack or something like that for Tim Holtz. I'm not really sure. So I go ahead and I trim that down, and then I use my corner punch to round out the corners so it matches the bottom. And then I'm going to take this Distress ink and go around the edges so it kind of looks a little bit aged. And then I take a pencil and try and round up the corners a little bit. And then with my fingernail to distress it, I just ran along the edges so that it would kind of distress the edges without, I don't know where my distress tool was, but it works just fine, kind of tearing it a little bit with my hand and rolling it up. And that's it. I don't know if I'm going to use this as a Father's Day card. Oh, and I also adhere it. That's nice. But it's an option, so I kind of like how this turned out. And so this was the foil effect. And that completes card number 2. And then for some of the still shots, I only have 2. It's kind of hard to tell that it's foiled, but it looks super cool in person. So card number 3 is an embossing technique. There's a few other things thrown in there, but that's pretty much what it is. I'm using a Jelly Bean stamps and die set, a top fold A2 size card, A2 size panel, and then the one little dots is Tim Holtz. I'm not really sure what brand the bigger dots are. Maybe a Dilutions. And I'm going to be doing an embossing technique for this card. So I remember to use my anti-static tool. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. It's E-Cake Success. I know the other brand is Embossing Buddy. But at any rate, I take my Versamark pad and go over the stencil. And that's going to just give... this is going to be like an ocean card because I have that cute little whale stamp set. And I'm just going to take a few different embossing powders. Kind of like a baby blue, a green, and then I'm going to take more of a navy blue or a dark blue. And I'll go ahead and heat that with my heat gun and melt the powder. And I still had to clean some off even though I used that tool, so I don't know. Maybe the other one's better. Who knows? So I heat that up. And then I'm going to take some Distress ink. And the first one I'm using is Salty Ocean. And I'm going to go darker on the bottom where the ocean is. And then as I go up, I'm going to go a little bit lighter. So this is like super sped up. I am not used to doing so many cards. I did a few today and a few last weekend, but I don't see how those people do 10 cards in one video and keep it under 40 minutes. This was kind of difficult for me, this doing this many cards all in one video, because If you've watched my other videos, I do 1 card a day, which is a lot easier for me. The other color I used on the bottom was Blueprint Sketch. And then I took my scallop dies and I cut out the panel. And then I'm taking a piece of, it's either dark gray or a light black, if there's a such thing as a light black, adhesive cardstock. And then I'll just trim around the edges to get it to size to fit my card base. And then I'm going to take my panel and I'm going to use some foam tape. And this is just a cheap dollar store, and actually I ran out of this when I was making these cards. So as much as I hate the dollar store foam tape, I'm going to have to go get some more. So I just adhere that to my card base. And then I'm going to take the whale. And I did have the coloring included originally, but to save on time, I went ahead and I deleted it. I'm fairly new to coloring and blending, so I've kind of just go with the rule of using 3 colors, because that's what I've learned from watching videos, is to use 3 shades of 1 color. And so that's basically what I did. I think it turned out fine. The markers I'm using are Spectrum Noir. Since this is kind of a graduation card, I am making a little graduation cap for the whale. And so I just took my little square hand punch and cut out 2 pieces of black cardstock. And then I put a piece of foam tape in between them. And here I'm taking some silver thread. And I kind of messed around with this for a while, but basically I just took some and folded it over and twisted it. And then twisted it around a tiny little brad and stuck a brad through the paper and the foam tape and folded the brad over, and that's my little graduation cap. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Tim Holtz stencil and I'm putting some stickles down on my craft mat, and the color I'm using is Crystal, I think. Yeah, Crystal. And I'm just taking my little putty knife and I'm just randomly putting a few different areas of the stickles. And so I think that's very pretty. And so as you can see at the top of the card, I have a smudge. I probably had ink on my fingers or something. And so I end up having to cover that up. But I take the little graduation cap and I'm using the multimedia mat. And I'm going to adhere that to the whale. And then I will take the whale and pop him up with some foam circles. And these are just something I grabbed out of my stash. They're fairly thick. And so I'm just going to pop him up on the card. And then I am going to take the single bubble and I'm getting out my Close to My Heart ink. This one happens to be named Ocean. And so I'm just going to place some bubbles around, and this was, since the whale was popped up, it was kind of hard to put any bubbles really close to him because I couldn't get my stamp down. At any rate, I don't know if that made any sense. It's kind of late right now. So I did a few bubbles, and then I'm going to use some, I think this is a clear Wink of Stella, and go over the top of the graduation hat. And then I take some enamel accents from Ranger in the black. And the one eye, I nailed it. And the other eye, I did not. So I got the first one on exactly centered on the eye. And on the second one, I was kind of off. I don't think it's that I put too much of the accent on. It's just I was a little bit above the ink mark where the eye is. So it kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but I can tell. So he's kind of like bug-eyed a little bit. One eye is a little bit bigger than the other, but that's fine. I think it's cute. I think those accents, they just add a little something something to the card. And here's the sentiment, and it just says "well done." And so I take a piece of leftover black cardstock and my Versamark, and I've used some detail white embossing powder, and I'll go ahead and heat that up with my heat tool and cut that out in a fishtail. And I am going to take the sentiment and cover the little smudge mark that I have at the very, very top. And this is my little Creative Memories cutter. I've been getting this out more lately rather than getting the my big cutter out when I'm doing like little things. And so here I'm going to just cut the fishtail, which I kind of left a little piece in there. So, and then I'm going to take a piece of foam tape and I'll pop that up. And then the last thing I do on this card is I use some Nuvo crystal drops, and these are some of the ones that I just got recently from scrapbook.com. And these are really nice. I've seen them used and they've looked wonderful. I actually put them on the bubbles, but I noticed when the next day when I checked the card and they were dried, they were cracking. So I don't know if that means I put too much on or what exactly happened. So if you know, please leave me a comment and let me know, or I'll just try and Google it. But that's it for this card. I think it's super cute and perfect for a graduation. I love that little whale. So card number 4, I am using this deep red rubber stamp. And this is also a new stamp. This is one I just got from scrapbook.com also. On this card I am doing, let's see, a technique using perfect pearls and a Versamark. So I'm going to use my Stamp Perfect tool and put my Versamark all over my stamp. And I'm putting that on my card panel. And then I'm going to take the perfect pearls with just it's just a paintbrush. I have a lot of different brushes and I just use them randomly for things. So I do that over the whole card, and here you can see that it is quite shiny. It's hard to tell in the video while I'm working on it that there's even a pattern because it is so light. But here you can see just how much shine that Perfect Pearls has. And after I put the powder all over the Versamark, I did spritz it with water really lightly and then set it with my heat gun just to make sure that it didn't rub off easily. But then I take the 6x6 paper pad, and this is like a textured pad. It's kind of like fabric-y feeling almost. And I'm just going to take this little panel that I cut out of it and adhere that to the card. And it's kind of a gray color. Then I'll trim off the excess. And then I'm going to take my Perfect Pearls piece and put that on the card also. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape. And I end up having to cut the card because my panel, when I cut it, I probably cut it a little too close. So it's a little bit smaller than what the actual card is. And even though I am horribly bad at cutting a straight line, I managed to somewhat cut a straight line when I cut this card. So I'm taking some adhesive backed pearls and putting them in the design of some of the like flower type patterns on the card. And then I also take a few of the little jewels. The sentiment I'm using is this congratulations. Originally this was going to be a different card, and then I found this heart that's kind of like a, not a vellum, an acetate heart. And the colors matched my card, and I was like, oh, I'm going to change this to a congratulations wedding card. So that's what it is. And I believe it's wedding season, right? April, May, maybe? So I take the sentiment and I put some Versamark on my stamp and some detail white embossing powder. And I heat that up. This vellum is not the best quality. I'm not going to knock where I got it from, so I'm not going to say, but it's not the best. Either that or it's just user error. I ended up, when I cut it, it kind of made a ripple in it. And so luckily it happens to land right where that little pearl is. So I did have to take the pearl off, and I will reattach it. And then I'm just going to cut a hole with my little crafty tool, and I'm going to stick the excess piece of the vellum through that, and that's how I'm going to adhere it. I didn't like how the vellum adhered to the card. It ended up rippling it a little bit. It didn't stick well with just the tape runner. And so I did end up taking my multimedia mat and going over it, and I don't know if maybe that's why. But like I said, I don't think this is the best quality vellum. I think if it was a thicker or stronger vellum, it wouldn't have rippled so much just from having a little bit of glue on it. So I go ahead and I adhere that, and then I get the pearl that I had removed earlier and place that back on the card. On the inside, I didn't end up finishing it. If I do send it out, I will go ahead and do that. I will probably put a panel on the inside so you can't see that strip of vellum though. So I really like this card. It's kind of subtle. I just love the teal and the gray colors together. I think it's just super elegant. So I'm taking the acetate heart, and I'm taking some foam circles, and I try to place it kind of centered over that little jewel that I have on there. And that is it for this card. Pretty easy, quick, and just beautiful. So next card is the last card. And unfortunately this card, my phone had stopped. I think the battery had died and I didn't realize it. So I wasn't able to get the very end. So I'm sorry about that. But for this one, the technique is using texture paste or glimmer paste. And the stamp set I'm using is a Imaginist, the Cactus. These are metallic watercolors, and they're actually Master's Choice, or from Hobby Lobby, Master's Touch. And they're just beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful on black. And so all I'm doing is I spritzed the colors to get them wet and let them sit. And then I took my brush and I dipped it in water, and then I dipped it in the color. And then if it wasn't juicy enough, then I dipped it in water before I just tapped it. And so I'm making kind of a night sky. But they're actually very pretty, and I think this set cost me like $8. So, and there you can kind of see the metallic look. I don't have the other more expensive ones, so I don't know how they compare, but I think they're beautiful. So I'm taking my circle die and I'm going to cut out this piece, and then I'm taking the bigger die and I'm going to cut out a piece of, it's actually a stamp backing. I don't have any acetate that's clear. And so this wasn't, I couldn't find any. I actually had to take a stamp set and remove the stamps from that, you know, that extra piece that they put on there to be able to do this. But I'm taking my tape runner and just going around the circle so I can adhere the clear panel. And then I take my anti-static tool because I got a lot of the adhesive around the edges and I didn't want it being sticky and getting stuck on my mat and stuff, so that just takes the stickiness right away. And then I don't have any glimmer paste or shimmer paste or mousse or anything like that, so I'm taking some gel and it's matte, and I'm taking some silver glitter, and this is a fine glitter, and then I also take some clear fine glitter, and I just add enough until I think it's sparkly enough. And originally I did not want this to be all over as much as I put on there. And what I should have done is used a smaller star stencil instead of these big stars. I ended up putting way too much on it, but I didn't want to scrap it, so I went ahead and just worked with it. But I think it would have looked a lot better with a little more subtlety, not so much on there. So I go ahead and put that. I have no idea what happened to my middle part of my video. At any rate, I did this twice. I did it first with embossing powder, and then I did it, and that's the one that I used with the white embossing powder. And I was going to use these metallic Crayola markers that I had, and then I was looking online and I saw this technique called black magic. And so basically it is taking white pigment ink and stamping it and then coloring over it with either watercolor pencils or just regular colored pencils. And so that's what I ended up doing, and I absolutely love it. I've already made masks of all the stamps since I will be kind of layering them on top of each other. And so I'm going to stamp up each stamp that I picked out. And I do kind of heat it between the stamps. Usually this white pigment ink is pretty juicy, but I don't know if it was the cardstock. It wasn't really so much, so I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and keep on putting my stamps down. And I think it looks kind of pretty just like that, just with the white against the black and the starry night sky. But like I said towards the beginning, this video, it doesn't actually get completed. The completed card is at the end, but at the very end, like I said, my battery ran out on my camera, and I thought I had went back and recorded the rest, but I must not have because I can't find it anywhere. So the only part that's missing is the sentiment part. So I think I add another stamp though onto the side. I think I added one more stamp. And then I put one in the background also. And I use these, I love these cactus stamps because we have some really beautiful cactus here in Arizona, or cacti. And there are some that are so pretty. I don't think I've ever seen in person. I've seen pictures, but they just bloom at night. They have these beautiful, beautiful flowers that just bloom at night, and they're just gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And I know some people that have never been here or don't live here are kind of, I don't know if enamored's the word, but by the cactus here. I had somebody visit me in Arizona one time that was from Virginia, and he was just fascinated by the cactus. So I started out using the Artist Loft watercolor pencils, and I only had a few variations in color, and so I ended up grabbing my Prismacolor colored pencils And I mean, I could have used these and it would have been fine, but I wanted a little more color variation, and so I think I had the 72 pack of Prismacolor, and so and these are so creamy. I absolutely love these colored pencils. I had some American Crafts colored pencils that I bought from Tuesday Morning, and from that to the Prismacolor, it's just a huge difference. Like there's no comparison. And I'm not knocking American Crafts, but these pencils by Prismacolor are so smooth and so easy to work with. Smooth like butter, I guess you could say, but they're absolutely gorgeous. And if you don't have these and you plan on buying them, I don't know what the price is now on Amazon, but that's where I bought these from, and I want to say I didn't pay more than $30 for these. And I see them like at Michael's and like in the stores, and I am shocked by the price. I mean, I might not have paid under $30. I want to say I paid like $25. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know I didn't pay over $40. And the pricing in, like I said, in the stores is just crazy. So I take different shades of green for the cactus, and I just think they turn out beautifully. I love the different variations in color. And I was kind of wanted it to be kind of not a neon look, but, you know, something like if the light was hitting it in the night, they would kind of glow. I don't know. So I take one of the pink ones and use that on one of the flowers, and then the other I use kind of a yellow-green on the flower. And then I take my gel pen and put the little dots on, and then I also take my black Jelly Roll pen and go and outline just to give it a little more definition and maybe a little bit of shadow. Not that I really know how to tell where a shadow is, which is why I don't really color with the alcohol markers that much. One day when I have time, I'm sure I will invest in some videos to watch on YouTube that will teach me how to color and make things look beautiful, but I just get by with how I am doing for right now. So once I'm done with that, I go ahead and adhere that using some double-sided tape to my card base. And I didn't realize this took me so long, this portion. So I go ahead and adhere that to my card base, and then I'm going to put the star panel over. And this is why I think I put too many stars, because I absolutely love the way the cactus look, and I think I just totally overwhelmed it with the amount of stars that I put on that top panel. So like when I look at the cactus right here just by itself, I'm like, oh, that's so gorgeous. And then I put this panel on and it kind of ruins it. But it's about to cut out. And so the sentiment is, you make my world happy. That's probably my least favorite card. But thanks so much for watching and for joining me if you made it through this whole series of 5 cards. And I hope you join me next month for another 5 cards, 5 occasions. And I'm hoping to be able to make more videos on a weekly basis. I haven't been doing that many lately, but I hope you stay tuned. If you like this video or learned something interesting, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already and you would like to see more, please subscribe. And I will catch you next time. Thanks.